Hi, my name is Esmeralda Garcia, and this is my project, Underage Drinking and its Correlation with Crime. So according to the National Institution of Alcohol Abuse and Alcoholism, it has been proven that by the age of 18, at least 60% of teens have already experimented with alcohol. So the act of consuming alcohol while being underage, which is 21 years old or younger, is considered underage drinking and is illegal in all 50 states. So underage drinking is a crime alone, but from this crime arise several other crimes, such as binge drinking or drinking and driving. So you may wonder why this should matter or why this should be so important to you. This should be important because anybody can be a victim to these crimes that result from underage drinking, anybody like yourself or myself, and not necessarily a juvenile. So while analyzing the effects that binge drinking and driving have on the juvenile population, some of the variables that were measured were gender, which is male versus female, and race, which is whites versus non-whites. So now we're going to jump down to the methodology section. So for the methods, the Center for Disease Control and Prevention published a national data set that was collected from the research by the Youth Behavior Surveillance and the Global School-Based Student Health Survey in 2017. So the data set is made up of responses to a survey that was given to middle school and high school students ages 13 to 17 years old. And because it was made up of 99 questions, there were several topics that were put on the survey, so some being a little more personal than others. The survey was the same across the nation, making this a representative sample. The representative sample can be seen as an advantage or a strength to the study. So we're going to jump over to the strengths and limitations. As I mentioned, a representative sample was a strength to the study just because it gives a more accurate representation of students ages 13 to 17 years old. This means that the results would also be more accurate or more representative of students or juveniles ages 13 to 17 years old. So with strengths also come limitations, and one of the limitations was that the survey was given to thousands of students, and the questions were the same for all students ages 13 to 17. This means that perhaps several students did not feel comfortable, or they felt maybe a little bit insecure answering certain questions on topics that were more personal, leading to maybe rushing through or not answering with all honesty. So now we're going to go to the results. So several five-way log linear analysis were conducted, all which included race and gender while measuring binge drinking for the participant and drinking and driving. So on the top, we have two charts. On the top left, we have gender with binge drinking, and then on the top right, we have gender with drinking and driving. So when it comes to comparing gender with binge drinking, females were a little less likely to binge drink, but of the juveniles that answered that they did binge drink, a few more females answered that they binge drank than males. Now we're going to look at the top right. So when it comes to drinking and driving, we noticed that males were more likely than females to drink and drive. So now we're going to jump down to the bottom when talking about race, which is whites versus non-whites. So on the left, we have whites with binge drinking and drunk driving, and then on the right, we have non-whites with binge drinking and drunk driving. When it comes to race, whites were a bit less likely compared to non-whites to binge drink and drive. There was not such a big difference when it came to race being measured as there was a big difference when it came to gender being measured. So from these findings, it was concluded that race does not have a major effect when measuring binge drinking and driving. Whites and non-whites were compatible in that same sense. However, when it came to gender, it was concluded that female juveniles were more likely to binge drink than males, and male juveniles were more likely to drink and drive than females. For future directions, it would be important to focus on a single variable and a single crime. And in this case, we would focus on gender, which would specify the study a little bit more and give us more accurate results about why females were more likely to binge drink and why males were more likely to drink and drive. Overall, it is important to remember that underage drinking is a problem and it still needs a lot of attention from the public, and we should all care about it. Thank you for your time. If you have any questions, please use the hashtags or comment below.